Hey guys, good morning. This is Sergey. Can I almost start speaking Russian? This is Ushanka Show live. I got 7,000 subscribers, and this is my rule. If we channel gets 7,000, another 1,000 subscribers, we're going live. And I got issue with my computer. For some reason, it's always frozen when I try to do live. So what I do, I stream live through the phone and I'm trying to answer questions using the computer. So I kind of be looking that way on a screen while talking to you. So don't be mad. But thank you for joining my channel. I'm ready to answer your questions if you have any. And let's see what we got right now. Videos. There we go. So I'll be watching myself and answering your questions. Buy a new computer. Sure. Well, this one does the job. It's just I'm not sure why, but it's always gives me trouble when I do a live. So as I said, I'll be kind of silly because I'll be looking that way because that's what the comments are. You can post your questions right here in the chat. Uh, Greetings from Gran Canaria, Spain. Well, hello. Buenos dias, buenas noches. As I can say senor, but it's probably more comrade. So first of all, while we waiting for first question, I would like to thank you everyone who joined me in my quest to get rid of a word thin in my book. As I mentioned, that I have that book already done in Russian. I published it, and now I'm doing English translation. Translation actually done, and I had several people helping me, but still they missed quite a few things. So things again. So what I have a situation is just I use the word thin every time. I just don't know what else to put in, and I think sometimes book will be more interesting if you have a more better words. Well, I don't know if my computer that slow. I mean, it's maybe 4 or 5 years old. Apple. I got Apple computer, so it just for some reason it's a little bit slow when it comes to live streaming. Otherwise, it's doing fine, so I have no problem. Okay, so if Joseph Stalin did not industrialize the Soviet Union, what would be outcome of the war? Well, the question is why he was pushing so hard to industrialize the Soviet Union. I subscribe to the view that he actually wanted to start the war. Like he wasn't preparing for defense war, he was preparing for attack. This is according to the theory of permanent revolution that socialist revolution can succeed only if the whole world is socialist. So that's my thought on that. So he was prepping really hard to get ready for war, to actually attack Europe and take the rest of the world. Because it's kind of interesting if you look at the what is this word? The symbol of Soviet Union, Gerb. It shows the whole planet. Not just the country. It's the whole planet. So the plan was there'll be the Soviet planet Earth, I guess, and when it comes to war with Soviet Union, it's completely. Even Bismarck said a long time ago that you can't win a war with Russia because it's just too big. Like even Hitler, when they had their Barbarossa plan, they only planned to go so far because, you know, look at size of Germany, look at size of Soviet Union. So Hitler had no chance to win against Soviet Union. It's in my opinion, he realized when it was almost too late that Stalin was getting ready to jam uh, the knife in the back of Germany while it's busy with Britain and France, and he had to turn around, abandon all the British invasion, and attack Soviet Union before Soviet Union attacked them. So that's my opinion. So it doesn't matter. Uh, you know, he, Russia would win regardless. It's just the cost will be different. But how many France was trying to occupy, and it's just you can't win. There's a come to this point that the size of the country is just too vast to have a chance to occupy. All right, going next. I guess I'll write the question: how's the Orthodox Church in America? Do people even know about Orthodoxy? There's some Russian Orthodox churches, quite a few of them in California. I believe there's even monastery in Northern California, somewhere in the mountains. A friend of mine who is a religious guy, he went there once. Most Orthodox churches in America are Greek. We have one in South Bend. It's a Greek Orthodox church, and I think maybe in the cities where there's a lot of like Russian-speaking community, they maybe have other churches. But otherwise, people know about it, as I said, but it's not that popular religion. I mean, there's so many religions in America; it's just insane. Guys, I gotta stop for a second. My dog is outside and he is scratching the door, so I'll be right back. I apologize. All right, sorry about that. We are back. Get my microphone hooked up, trying to be all professional here. Okay, moving forward. What do you think of Putin? I think quite negatively him because I'm originally from Ukraine, and what he does in Ukraine, of course, doesn't make me a happy camper, so I don't like the guy. And I feel bad for Russia because he's what like he already beat Brezhnev by how long he was at power. I mean, there's a whole generations of Russians grew up that didn't know any other leader than Putin. And the way the economy goes, you could tell that it's not the right direction. So I don't like Putin at all. For those of us who are new to your channel, can you give us a brief biography and history of your channel? My biography is pretty easy. I was born in the USSR in 1971. I grew up there. I lived there pretty much all my life. Then in 1991, Soviet Union collapsed. In 1995, I came first time to America to work in a summer camp. In 1999, I had a blind date with the American local girl. 6 months later, we got married, and now I live in Michigan and I'm married for 20 years. We have 4 kids, 2 kids from her first marriage, and we had 2 more kids, Alexandra and Oliver. And I started this channel a couple of years ago because I noticed that every time I tell stories about life in Soviet Union to my coworkers, they quite interested. So I decided, you know what, maybe I'll do a YouTube channel. Do you get culture shock when you visit Ukraine? Does it feel natural? I don't say I get a culture shock, but it's definitely I'm more Americanized now, so a lot of things is things again. It's just different. It started a long time ago when I stayed in America for 4 years. I couldn't go back because of my papers after I got married. I went back, and a lot of what I didn't notice before, because I came to America first time in 1995. I worked here in the summer and the fall, went back, continued my education, came back again. So like every summer was in America, every fall and winter I was back in Ukraine. I was just happy to go back, live my life. And then when I stayed here nonstop for 4 years, and I lived American life. You live with Americans, your American in-laws. Then I went back to Ukraine. I started noticing things that I didn't notice before, like grass is not mowed, everything like trash laying everywhere, everything looks like uncapped, stuff like that. So yeah, now it's just I feel like there's so much change since 1990s. And I come back and like, whoa, all these buildings came from, all the supermarkets came from. I go to the supermarket and like, how come where is all the stuff was being hidden during the Soviet Union? Like I remember empty stores, empty shelves, lines of people waiting to buy some basic goods, and now it's everything everywhere. Like, oh my god! And then you go out in the country, all the collective farms are closed, and I'm like, my goodness, where did you hide all this stuff? Because it's really weird, and that like I still can't get used to this abundance of goods in Ukraine. And so that's kind of that part. Otherwise, it hurts my eyes. I definitely recognize so much. It's if I decided to move back to Ukraine, there'll be quite a change because I just like what I have here. All right, moving forward. Trotsky advocated, let me see, move a little bit back. Permanent revolution, but Stalin advocated socialism in one country. I believe, yes, I agree. Trotsky was saying it because, you know, my opinion, Trotsky was a really smart nerd. Stalin was street smart. He kind of knew, like, hey, if I keep on yelling in every corner, we have a permanent revolution, we're going to freak out the rest of the world, and especially Europe, and they'll be, preparing to defend. If we just announce that, hey, we just okay with socialism in one country, but we're going to get ready and get industrialized, build our military, and we're going to do what we're supposed to do because, you know, it's not Trotsky. I think before him, like Marx maybe or Engels. I'm not that hardcore in the theories. There was that theory that you need to have socialism everywhere, otherwise it's gonna fail. So Stalin had exactly the same plan as Trotsky, but he was just being street smart. You don't go walk around and yell, "Hey, we're gonna rob every bank in the country," because you know what's gonna happen. You quietly prepare for the project. You don't announce it. It's like Stalin knew that. Trotsky was way too naive in that point that he thought world is ripe for the revolution and every country will be ready to become socialist. So that's my opinion. Okay, moving along. Looks like you guys like the pictures. Hey, by the way, we have 25 people watching but only 4 likes. That's pretty weak. This is like a some kind of capitalistic attitude. Show me some socialism likes. Thank you. All right, so next, uh, speaking of war, was reading reviews on Russian ammo like Tula ammo and Wolf brand. Yeah, there's quite a few Mosin Nagants right now, so Russian ammo looks like quite popular, and it's pretty inexpensive. Me myself, I have a Mosin Nagan rifle, and I purchased this big like a can. It's like 440 bullets. It's like a Soviet army surplus, but I never open it up. Okay, keep on going. Your channel is very good. I don't know why your subscribers are so less. You deserve at least 100K. Thank you. Like if Comrade Lenin says my channel deserves more subscribers, that's really nice. I'm not sure how I probably don't have my something set up right for YouTube because it doesn't show up in searches, I guess, or something like that. So people who really dig YouTube, like they dig and walk around, they find me, but otherwise it's doesn't show up. And some people I think just think it's really boring because I'm not that excited teller. I don't bring a bunch of emotions, and it's my like not a vlog. Hey, check it out. This Russian guy lives in America. I want to share my knowledge, so I more look like my channel more like a library that you can always go in and read, learn something new about life in Soviet Union. Okay, what did you folks in USSR thought about Yugoslavia? Okay, I already answered that many times. We're basically Yugoslavia for Soviet Union was like a gay cousin, so it's still relative, but no one wants to talk about him. So Yugoslavia, since they weren't that strict with the socialist ideas, they did a lot of. I think they allowed some private enterprises and stuff like that, which was totally not acceptable by socialist standards. So Yugoslavia was kind of not a bad country, but they were a little bit of traitor, so it's just like a gay cousin. It's still your relative, but you just don't mention him. Okay, Hitler Germany would won if Hitler listened to his generals. No, he wouldn't. You can't win against Russia. Look at the map. Look at the size. It's not possible. He could beat them up to Urals, and then they will freeze their asses and have to roll back. Just country is way too big. So I don't think so. We have some Orthodox churches in Minneapolis, Greek, Lebanese, Maronite, Ukrainian. Yeah, has quite a big Ukrainian and Russian community. I was surprised. Hey, random leftist, nice to see you. Thank you for joining. We got almost 30 people. Don't forget to put likes. I think it pushes the video up in the chart, so it might show up and attract more people. Uh, Economic plan Putin offered Ukraine was much more favorable than EU plan. Was no plan at all actually. There was pretty much Ukraine ran out of money, so there was a choice between take a big loan from European Union or from Russia. In Russia, yes, Russia offered lower interest rate, but it's like if you have a bucket with a bunch of holes, it doesn't matter how much water you're gonna pour in that bucket; it's gonna be empty eventually anyway. So, I personally think that the whole that revolution mess was not worth it because first of all, it was pretty much the question where take the money, you know, and secondly, Russia is always really sensitive about its borders and the countries surrounding, just like America. I mean, if you look United States, what they did in Panama, Grenada, Cuba, I mean, all these empire type countries, they're all very sensitive about neighborhoods. So, there's no way they're going to let Ukraine join the European Union and stuff like that. So it's just, I'm not surprised. But there was no economic plan. They like to, Russia likes to keep Ukraine half broke so they can always influence it and bribe it with money and cheap oil. I'm a leftist, but I recognize that socialism doesn't work and that's it. It will work because it's ideal system. It will work as everyone will be ideal person. If everyone works to the max, regardless the pay, and in theory, yes, it's fantastic system. You remove all the profit, but in reality, since there's no ideal people, I totally agree. It just doesn't work. Soviet Union's example, Cuba, North Korea, wherever you look at, you remove. It's just people are people. You remove the greed out of the equation, and suddenly no one wants to work their hardest. And I think what killed Soviet Union's productivity was so poor, so low that we just were so behind the rest of the world, like industrialized world. If Putin was replaced, there will be another dictator. Possible. Well, if you look like Slavic people need to be ruled by force, like Ukraine is kind of mess, but at least they have some kind of democracy. They look how many presidents changed in Ukraine since 1991. Four. Uh, Belarus had one. Russia had one. Kazakhstan had one till recently. So it definitely has that trend. I agree, but it's a possibility. But you need to the whole generation of these people who grew up under Soviet Union. They need to die out before there be any chance that there'll be young generation that can think differently. All right, moving along. I'm sorry the questions jumped, so I am trying to catch up. All right. Would you support America becoming a neutral country like Switzerland? Well, there's a lot of corporations in America that make money on America actually being everywhere. So that would be nice if every country will become neutral and just do mind their own business and take care of their own people and then trade. But unfortunately, if you look through the history of the world, there's always some country that trying to um, push its agenda, protect its economical interests by attacking other countries. Spain, you got Great Britain, now it's America. Who knows? China will be the next. Russia kind of attempting to do something like that. But yeah, it would be nice because definitely roads in America collapsed. Population is really angry, and as poor people become, as more angry they become. So definitely, it would be nice if we spent this $1 billion instead of the spend them on wars in some faraway countries, spend them here on infrastructure and creating jobs and stuff like that. I was in Russia for 10 days and came back just 2 days ago. I thought Lenin was in Russia all his life and he's still there. Everyone there like USSR when why it collapsed. Well, everyone, who did you talk to? That's another question. There's a young generation that have no idea about life in Soviet Union. They get used to go to supermarket and buy what they want. They get used to have a cell phone and they can almost speak their minds. And once you experience life under Soviet Union, I don't think you would want to come back. They just, it's like if you think about your youth and you think, oh, I was so strong, the girls were all over me, but you forget all the bad things that happened to you because our memories tend to be like that. Like I remember the good things, and like the bad things kind of tend to fade away. Soviet Union is just, it's like oak tree. It was rotted inside, and time came, and the big tree just collapsed. There's, it's just historical thing. The economy was so bad that there was no way to grow any further, and other trees grew taller and shaded over the Soviet Union, and it went down. All right. Your stories in the window into the other world kind of cool. Well, thank you. I just want to share all these memories before I forget because that train is slowly leaving and there's a lot of people dying that could share the stories. I mean, I'm still young. Unfortunately, my English is good enough to tell the world about my experiences. What happened after 1991? I heard mafia took over everything. It was quite a mess. I didn't say mafia took over all of it, but there was quite a lot of racketeering going on. You have private enterprises and cops became corrupted. Everything became about money. There's another thing. You would think after collapse of Soviet Union, if Soviet people were like really, Soviet, we would have nothing like that. But everyone just became overnight like greedy. Most of the people, and just gangs and racketeering and just killing competition. Like you have a company that competes with your company, you just hire people and you kill the owner of that company so you can be successful. So it just kind of tells you what the kind of mental background was of Soviet people. So when the capitalism kind of came in, they was just wild right away. So it wasn't like, hey, we know better, we can make this thing work. It just went to the wild wild west style. So yeah, it was pretty bad in '90s. But I don't say the mafia took over everything. We didn't really have such a thing like mafia. You put in more weight living in America. Well, I kind of getting older too, so definitely I'm a little bit heavier. And my wife cooks really good. So, it, what is your favorite city? Okay, I don't like cities. Period. So I grew up in Kiev. I never liked it. I don't. I never been in Lviv, so I can't tell you. I kind of like Ukrainian countryside. The village that I grew up as a kid. Yes. Okay, moving along. If USSR would have dissolved willingly and slowly but strongly in the late 70s, early 80s, what would be a much better place? The only reason I think why Soviet Union didn't collapse in 80s is the oil prices went so high. There was just like a, steroid injection into the Soviet economy because I think that was the best years for the regular Soviet people was late like early 80s to middle 80s because we just had so much extra hard currency that they started buying actually goods. Our stores started having foreign like toothpaste and other things. It was really cool, but instead of investing into the economy, they just spent it on goods. Tried to get people happy and wasted opportunity. And there's a lot of things about like Soviet Union, especially Russia. If you look at the location of the country, like how the country located, it's pretty much Canada, like Russia. So you know, it really doesn't make sense to develop industry like in Canada. Everything is along the American border because that's where warmer is. More north you go, is harsher climate. It's so expensive to build there anything because you need to dig so deep to put permanent structures and buildings. So you look north of Canada, it's goes like empty pretty much, right? And all you have just the permanent towns. They have a hole in the ground and they mine something out of it, they pump oil, and nothing else. And Soviet Union made a huge mistake. They actually tried to develop Siberia. They sunk so much money building cities, and it's so expensive to live there. It's so expensive to have any industries. Right now, it's actually there's outflow of people moving back to European part of Soviet Union and south of Soviet Union. So Siberia getting abandoned, and there's also Chinese taking over going on. So that's another problem with Soviet Union. Okay, moving along. How could I put subtitles in Spanish in some of your videos? Usually, if you watch my video, there's on the bottom right, there's a little wheel. On the bottom right of the screen, there's a little wheel called settings. If you click on settings, there is be options about sometimes say option as a translate, title, subtitles, translate. You can choose Spanish there, but I'm not sure if it will translate good enough. But there's an option clicking on the little wheel on the bottom right of your screen. There's a good deal of debate of whether Stalin was actually a committed communist or perhaps he just liked the power. Uh, I bet you there's a lot of arguments about that, but I would say number two, he just liked power. Um, why I think like that is when he died, it was a total mess. So he never bothered to prep next person to take over, right? So, for example, if I would really care, like I really care about if I have a business and I want to prosper, right? I would probably will start prepping next guy to become CEO of my company, and doesn't matter my son. I would pick the best person that can run the company and make it more successful. And it takes a long time. You can't just snatch someone off the street and put in power. Stalin didn't do it. Stalin actually killed anyone who would be like any kind of resemblance of competition. Uh, so everyone around him was pretty much people that weren't up to run the country. And when he suddenly died, there was a total mess. Uh, it's somewhat that I don't know. Have everyone seen that comedy called Stalin's Death? I mean, it's probably went overboard, but there was a lot of that going on. Like they didn't know what to do. The country had a leader. Leader disappeared. What we do now? So if Stalin be really caring about Soviet Union communist ideas, uh, he would probably will have someone prepped, and then you of course make sure that he will be supported by other people. But he never done anything like that. So I think it was all about power. He just liked to be dominating over everything, and he probably wanted to be the leader of the communist world. So that's my thinking on that. Did you know that Germany had a communist revolt? I believe I don't know details, but I remember something from history. But also, I remember that later German communists voted for Hitler. You can correct me on that, but this is one of the theories how the Stalin was pushing Germany to start the World War II. Is actually he helped Hitler to become a leader of Germany because he told German communists to vote for him, and then of course Hitler wiped out all the communists. Uh, Stalin tried to resign 4 times. I don't know about 4 times, but when Hitler attacked and kind of messed up all the Stalin's plan, he really freaked out and he was hiding. So that was the perfect moment to actually get rid of Stalin. But of course, they didn't do it because there was not a single guy who had enough balls to become a leader. It's that Stalin wiped out everyone who resembled competition to his leadership. Hey, comrades, don't forget to put likes under this live show. We have 44 people watching and only 16 likes. So don't forget to put the likes. It'll push my live stream up in the rankings. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Oh, we got COI cultist missed 13 minutes of show trying to respond to your second thing. So thank you. I really, actually, everyone who helped me with things, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Uh, it's just priceless how many good suggestions I got. So it definitely would make my book better. And I think it's kind of also cool because I do this little introduction of little moments in the book, and I probably give you the idea that it should be an interesting book. I think you're gonna like it. Where do you live in Michigan? I used to live in Grand Rapids. I live in Southwest Michigan, so I live right here, St. Joe, Benton Harbor area. I really like it. Have you ever been invited to political podcasts? No, I never been invited. There were a couple guys talking to me about going to their colleges and talk to students, but nothing came out of it because I think one guy is like Northern Michigan, and I'm not sure where the other person is, but I really would love to do it. But it's like, well, if you guys can cover my expenses going there, like I'm not asking for money to be paid, but at least if I can get my ticket paid and hotel, I might do it. But nothing came out of it. So, and I'm not sure if I'm presenting any interest for the political podcast. I make a lot of people angry because I'm a confused left libertarian growing up in Soviet Union, not liking Soviet Union person. All right, moving along. Stalin was a monster, but perhaps he was necessary to defeat Hitler. Well, if Stalin would sign agreement with Britain and France to join against Hitler, but instead of it, he told them go home, and he signed an agreement with Hitler about friendship and not attacking each other. So I think that was, I mean, he had a plan. He wanted Hitler to convince Hitler, hey, your eastern borders are safe. Let's carve together Poland, and then you go west. And there's a book I strongly recommend if anyone interested in all this history of war, not World War II, and more like war between Soviet Union and Germany, and what was like roots of it. There's a book and it's translated in English called Icebreaker by Suvorov. I strongly recommend that book. Like he, former KGB spy or GRU spy, and really smart guy. He find like the way the war went so horribly for Soviet Union. It's just like how in the world we prepared so much, we spent so much money, so much effort, we starved millions of people, taking away their grain so we can buy new equipment to build tanks, and then Germany is just like, I'm sorry for my expression, bitch slapped the Soviet Union for like 2 years, right? They were just doing whatever they wanted, and we had like awesome tanks, awesome airplanes, but just Soviet soldiers didn't want to fight. So this army was ready to be like attacking force, but not like be a defense force. So I strongly recommend it. It's Ledakol in Russian, so Icebreaker by Suvorov. That book kind of it was eye opener to me. I felt really dumb reading because there's a lot of times in order to block the forest behind, you need to put in front of the person this big fat tree, and you look at that tree and you don't see the forest. And that's what exactly like where we're so proud, like, hey, look at the Soviet tanks. Like, sorry about that. I had a phone call, so it knocked me out. Sorry about that. It was a phone call again, and it knocked me out. So we're back. So I strongly recommend the book. So, anyways, so this tank BT7, and it's like, hey, this tank has this unique feature. You can remove the tracks and has a rubber wheel, so you can go like super fast on a highway. And you're like, yeah, that's cool, great idea. And it's like, you never thinking like next step further. Like, wait a minute, why do we need a tank if we were preparing for defense and we created this tank that can go super fast on the highways? We don't have highways in Russia. We don't have highways in Soviet Union. We have dirt roads. We like have a bad roads. Why would we manufacture thousands of super fast attack tanks that can go fast on the highways? Then you think about it like, oh yeah, we were getting ready to attack Europe. That's why. Anyway, carry on. I have a comment to say, I like your channel like this. Thank you. It's, you know, I don't look at my channel as an entertaining channel. I mean, I do some goofy things here and there. Sometimes I act silly, but more like you go to the library. Like that's what I see it. My channel is a library. There's the videos that you can watch today. You can watch tomorrow. You can probably watch 5 years from now and still be interesting because it's not like I'm talking about, okay, today, what happened today. It's like a history book. So I'm glad you like it. I mean, 7,000 subscribers is pretty impressive considering my poor English and considering how boring I am. I know I'm not excited. I don't smile much, but it is what it is. I don't like to, act silly and pretend to be something I'm not. Are you following the current election in Ukraine? What I hear from my friends there, it seems like so much anger there, like Trump and Hillary. I don't really follow it. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, Google sends me notifications because it noticed I sometimes look at Ukraine. I give up on Ukraine. I think there is no hope. I mean, it's once again, it's the whole generation of former communists need to die out before there's any chance. And of course, as long as Russia, like Putin style Russia, Ukraine has no chance. They will dominate. They will do anything to undermine Ukraine to be a real independent country because they want countries around Russia to be dependent on Russia. So then they will bid their will. So uh, I don't think it'll be any difference whoever gets elected. It's kind of like in America too. People so angry against each other. Trump and Hillary, but the people who make money, they still make money. The way I see elections in America is, Democrats and Republicans, it's the same coin, but you have what is it, tails, the eagles or tails, but the coin is the same and belongs to the same people. You can toss that coin 10 times. It doesn't matter how it's going to land. The policies of permanent wars will be continuing because if you look, every president will start some little war. Clinton was Democrat, he started war in Balkans. You have W. Bush started war in Kuwait. Another Bush started war in Iraq. So it's the same kind of in Ukraine. As long as there's the forces that control the whole system, doesn't matter who is elected. The whole system is working towards the people who behind the curtain. So same in Ukraine. Russia is behind the curtain, and you know we kind of have in Ukraine right now. You have Ukrainian Trump. We have Zelensky, who is a zero experience as a politician, never done anything government wise. He was in a really funny show called The Servants of People, Sluga Narodu, and he played a president, like a teacher who became a president, and it was a really cool show. And people are like, you should become a president. He's like, okay, and he has a good chance to become a president. But I hope I'm wrong. I truly do, but I'm afraid Ukraine has lost cause. All right. Tito was the most badass response to Stalin. If you don't stop sending killers, I'll send one to Moscow. I won't have to send a second one. That's interesting. Never heard of it. Uh, that's a lot of things I figure out that now I need to learn more because, like I said, Yugoslavia was so like yeah, it's there, and nothing was going on. We had no information about it because it betrayed socialist ideas. And after Stalin wanted to scoop it up, have the same system, Soviet Union and Tito like, no, it's not happening. But that's interesting. I didn't know about this whole Tito Stalin противостояние, like standoff, I guess. My landlord from Yugoslavia, he still loves Tito. I met a lot of people from Chile, South America, and they all love Pinochet. I was shocked because the Soviet propaganda, Soviet mass media was always saying that uh, Pinochet was the worst thing that happened to Chile. But every Chilean person I met here in the United States, they all like Pinochet saved the country. So, all right, I have about 20 more minutes, and then we can go. In your opinion, what would you have been a previous Soviet leader's reaction to collapse of USSR? Honestly, no idea. I mean, I think the last person who still believes that a communism possible it was Khrushchev because he actually announced that in 1980s we're gonna live under communism. After Khrushchev, it's pretty much they come up with new theory of developed socialism. Like, yeah, we're never gonna reach communism. We're just gonna live in this developed socialism, and this is when the Zastoy started. Economy was just kind of like in the cruising speed, slowly going downhill. It's my opinion. So I think Khrushchev was the last person that could do something. I mean, we communists destroy our all sea. Well, not exactly communists, but the way they same with Caspian Sea, it's in pretty bad shape. It's just the irresponsible attitude towards natural resources. I don't know if you know, they actually had plans to like use nuclear bombs to turn rivers around, like to fix situation in south of the Soviet Union with shortage of water. They wanted to like explode some nuclear bombs and turn their northern rivers south. So yeah. You ever watch Yegor's TV channel? He ended up moving back to Russia. I don't watch him. I know him because he also have a channel in Russian language when he's constantly complaining about horrible life in America. And I don't know if he did or did not because his Russian viewers are asking him all the time because if you hate America so much, why you never moved to Russia? If he moved to Russia, good for him. I'll be really interested because he was a little whiny baby living in California. Didn't have to work because his father has quite a few rentals, so they just live off the rent and complaining about life in America. Sergey, I don't see a like button on this live chat. It's right on the screen. Right now I have 31 likes. There's a little thumb up thing, and we have 31 right now. We can probably reach 50 if we want to. Okay, moving. Putin's plan is basically subservience and forever being part of Russia's sphere of influence, rather than equal partner. That's normal. I mean, that's how the Russians always treated Ukrainians, like we almost Russians, like we are, we kind of like Russians, but a little bit stupid Russians. So it's mentality, yes. And it's like how the United States treats Mexico. Same way, they don't treat them like equal partner. They're just like, hey, you need to pay. We're gonna build the wall, and you're gonna pay for it. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, moving. What was the view on China by the public? Uh, it was kind of negative, especially after we had that small conflict on the border with China. We had a lot of jokes about that, but yeah, China was kind of like Yugoslavia. During the Stalin regime, we were like best buddies. There was a lot of posters about Chinese, Russian friendship, Soviet friendship. Then China kind of like, well, bad guys too. And I mean, it went to the point that we actually had a border conflict. There's some people, soldiers died. I like moving along. I like to hear of your experience. I'm a bit iffy about politics discussions coupled with more viewers. The discussions get a bit excitable and loud. For example, your Soviet vlog number 4. Um, yes, but unfortunately, politics is so much of our lives that then, that's why I decided to create Soviet vlog because those questions that keep on coming, and I feel stupid, you know, to ignore them because people have questions. They would like to know my opinion as a foreigner living here in America. So I was like, okay, uh, I will make a video, but it's not going to be a life in USSR topic. But of course, my goodness, there's a lot of angry people, and the way I see myself, it's we call it I'm between anvil and a hammer, and I'm right here. So there's the people who love socialism, there's the people who hate socialism, and I'm between. So I'm constantly get hammered, and you had a little bit about politics in America, and there's a lot of anger. People like just anyway. So just part of life, and I don't mind to talk about it a little bit. But unfortunately, a lot of people they just they go nuclear right away. It's like you can learn to listen to other opinions and discuss opinions. You don't need to like automatically assume like if you not agree with my opinion, you're dumb. So that's hard. Your son want to be a YouTuber? Not really. I mean, it just not his thing. Cheers from Houston. I'm going to have a shot of vodka and out of my chat buddies. All right, no здоровья. There's another question about war in Ukraine. I mean, they say that's the topic. Like, I don't know much about it. I just know that there's no way local people like coal miners or factory workers just out of the blue become such a strong force that they can repel even a bad military force. In Ukraine, just like in Russia, there's no uh, like people don't own a lot of guns except with shot rifles, shotguns. So there's a Russia involved there big time. What items were not deficit in Soviet Union? Please answer. You have gone to Central Asia Republic. I went only once to Azerbaijan. We always like in Kiev. We always had matches. We always had sugar, salt. I mean bread. There's some juices. So there's some items that you won't starve, but if you want like sprouts, those were you know hard demand. What? You can talk. They know English. It's an English channel.
Hey, if any you know what? Oh, where's it? Where's it? I
It's
don't
in
see
the
it.
phone.
Oh, it's on the
There's my
phone.
son. Yeah.
Hey, if any of you guys know where to get this tea, let us know, please. Thank you.
We brought it from Ukraine. It's a green tea, and my son really likes it. We bought some Chinese green tea on Amazon. It's not like that. So anyway, we don't have any Russian grocery stores around us. So okay, moving a lot. Putin is a great leader. Well, you need to watch some videos about how he was elected in the last election. There's a lot of videos how the people come and put this thick of the papers in election boxes. I think so. Russian people slowly start realizing. So he is maybe a great leader for himself, but I don't think he's a great leader for Russian people. For the next video, activate slow mode in the comments. That's interesting. I don't know about any slow mode. All I know, I have a super chat. So if you want to support my channel, you can through some donation, and your comment will pop. Like, oh, quit.
No, because
I asked the
the
question.
slow mode makes the chat go slower. Like it takes a little bit for the chat to
So
learn, so it's easier to read.
all right, so we have 10 more minutes because my son wants to go mountain biking. We have a nice trails in the woods close by in Andrews University, so we're gonna do it starting 1 o'clock. So let me try to move further if any questions here. I have links of really good documentaries on the USSR. Well, you're welcome to post them on the end of my videos. Did your opinion about black people change when you moved to USA? I'm sure you're not racist. Uh, I don't know about like my opinion. I wasn't that scared of them anymore when I knew them better, but I learned a lot of things, and many of those things weren't that good. It's actually I talk a lot about in my book. Is just the way the kids were. Like one of the thing again, another thing. I was surprised. Like with I talk to kids and they share their whatever about life, and they constantly mention like my mom and my boyfriend, my mom and my boyfriend. It was so weird for me because I grew up like every kid had a father. If you don't have a father, probably it's because he got killed. It was hardly anyone that had like, oh my, boyfriend. That to hear the boyfriend, the kid says my mom's boyfriend was so bizarre, and it was so I don't say popular among kids. I was really shocked. And then of course stories of the counselors, how they sell drugs to pay for college. That was insane. But this is I worked at camp for inner city kids from Chicago, so it's a quite an interesting part of town in Chicago, South Side, West Side, like that South Side and got all that stuff, West Side. Anyway, moving along. Uh, Clothing, TV, appliances. We're talking about shortage. Usually, they made TVs so expensive, so that was a one way of fighting the shortage. Is just you make things so expensive that you can hardly afford it. Like TV was 600 rubles when my parents bought it. They had to work for 3 months, like combined income and the family to pay for it. So if you make, mm, say, together maybe $3,000 a month, two people work. So that'll be like $9,000 for TV. Appliances, kind of same thing. A lot of appliances you have to wait like for 6 months on the waiting list. Did the Soviet people like drinking coffee? Instant coffee only. No, hardly anyone was drinking like had a coffee makers and coffee grinders. Instant coffee was the thing I still drink, mostly instant coffee. Oliver, can you let the dog out? He's dancing again.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. How were women treated by Communist Party? Uh, I mean, we had first woman who went to space was a Soviet woman, right? We had, I think there was one like official, like, hey, look, we have equal rights and everything else, but on the like everyday level, usually, if you're a woman, you must know how to cook and take care of kids. Of course, you have to work because it was illegal not to work. But yeah, it was more like your place is in the kitchen. And another explanation, like if you see the Soviet leaders, like you hardly saw any wives, right? Only when uh, Gorbachev became the power, finally you saw first spouse. Like Brezhnev, his wife never showed up. Khrushchev, same thing. Like only guys were doing business. You hardly could see their wives. So it was quite a different than here. All right.
Well, Dad, your stream can go a lot larger because I'm making a pizza.
If it's where do I live? I live in Southwest Michigan. It's right here, about 90 miles from Chicago. Uh, there's a question about alcohol drinks. Someone went to Poland. I buy some Riga's Balsam. Oop, for some reason we got frozen. Oh, are you playing some games? Because I think you're making my Wi-Fi freeze.
This game doesn't have Wi-Fi.
So I buy it, but with Ukraine, I don't think we have anything like that. How can I reach out to Russian propagandist Internet Research Agency? I don't know. I don't work for the guys, so I have no idea. When did color TVs become popular? We didn't have like my family didn't have a color TV till 1987. I think early 80s the first color TVs show up. My uncle, that the artist that made several videos about, he had a couple of those. A couple, he had one, but I always remember coming to his place and you see TV in color. It was like, whoa, it was so cool because I grew up on a black and white TV. Why Russian cars were so crappy? Because no one cared, right? They just purchased the Italian Fiat model and they were just making it. Considered it was really good because you have no competition. There's no incentive to improve your cars because you don't compete. It's like, what is that bird in New Zealand? It's not a dodo bird, but other bird. You don't have any natural predators. So bird, they can't fly anymore. They just run around. As only predators show up, those birds have died out. Same with Soviet cars, like that the Zhiguli car was so like people waited for till 9 years in the list to buy that car. Then when they opened the borders, now that factory is almost bankrupt because no one to want to buy those cars. There's a much better cars made in Germany and France and Japan. Okay, do you think if Khrushchev was not taken down by Brezhnev, USSR must still be around? I don't think so. I mean, I see Khrushchev as the Soviet Trump. Like he was doing a lot of really extreme things, which scared the rest of the government, like the Caribbean conflict. I mean, that was a really scary, hardcore game that Khrushchev played. I mean, in the result, Soviet Union, I see, won because America quietly agreed to remove their nuclear rockets from Turkey in exchange that we remove rockets from Cuba, and the United States guaranteed that they won't mess with Cuba anymore. But we were on the brink of nuclear war, so I think it scared everyone. So if Khrushchev remained at power, he may create conditions for the second World War II. Who knows? He just was that type that for him all the politics were just like a poker game. You just bet everything and you just try to keep poker face and try uh, to win the game. I put a great documentary in the creative playlist. I don't know how to get the link from the app on mobile. I know how to do it on a computer. I'm not sure you can do it on an app. Honestly, you probably can push with your finger, hold it. Maybe it will highlight everything as you do copy paste. Do you think Ukraine will ultimately join European Union, NATO? If the Russia allows it, then they will. If the Russia will fall apart, then there is no reason to join NATO. They definitely would like to, but Russia will never let them. Did you have any product like deodorant in USSR? Nope. We didn't have any of that. Is actually I talk about in my book that when I discovered it in '95 in America, I was like, God bless it, and I brought some home to my mom because she was suffering. Like in the summer, since we also didn't have air conditioning, she had to run um, to like the bathroom and wash their armpits because they were sweaty and had no deodorant. So yeah, we didn't have. Okay. Any must-watch Soviet movies? There are tons on the Amazon Prime Video. The only one I can regularly recommend was the movie Thief, War. I'm not sure if it's out there. I think it's awesome. Uh, a lot of the modern movies is just plain propaganda. So, like, there's some about Afghanistan, but honestly, I'm kind of behind on all this stuff that I can't really recommend. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's 1 o'clock, and I need to get going. I appreciate you joining me for this show.
We can go from
As
the
always, thank you for your support. And if you have time today, tomorrow, you can check my video about things. I have a number 3 coming up shortly. So I really appreciate your help with uh, helping me with replacing the word thin with other better words. So thank you so much for joining in, and we'll talk to you soon. And of course, if we have a lot of subscribers joining my channel, I'll see you shortly when we have 8,000 subscribers. I'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.